So this week we are continuing our studies of the spine, and we are going to just do a really short review and say that we're studying three aspects of the spine: the anatomy of the spine, the pranic spine, Sushumna Nadi, and the emotional spine. And the first few weeks we studied the asanas about lengthening, getting some opening and some space in the spine, helping us alleviate some of the compression that happens. We moved into spinal twist. And then last week we started our studies on strength and the importance of keeping our spine healthy. We have to keep the spine and the back strong. So this week we're going to continue our studies of strength and move into the second aspect of the spine, which is the pranic aspect of the spine. So we need to go back to our studies of the vayus. What are the vayus? The winds. So yoga is considered a science, so we as yoga practitioners have to understand that as much as we keep the physical spine flexible and strong and healthy, we have to keep the pranic spine moving and also very strong as well. So in our practice we have the Uji Breath. We understand that the Uji Breath is important and that one of the major nadis that we work with in our practice is Sushumna Nadi, and that the direction of the wind is that the inhale we bring it up and the exhale we push it back down. So in order to keep ourselves physically as well as energetically healthy, there are four vayus that I want all of you to understand as we practice today. I'm going to be making reference to them. And the first one is in the throat. Do you guys remember which one this is? Udana Vayu. So it has to do with the speech and the health of everything that has to do with your throat. Then the second one, also incredibly important to our health, is the chest area. What is this one? Pranavayu. And then we move into the digestion. So the digestive system has, this whole region has its own vayu, which is samana vayu. And then we move into an also very important region, which we're going to refer to as the elimination region. Very important for our health. And what's that one called? Apanavayu. So these four regions in our yoga practice, we're constantly doing very specific asanas, doing specific things with our body and using our breath to keep these areas healthy through this idea of winds and movements through the nadis. One of the key elements in keeping these four elements healthy by using our breath is something called Agni. What is Agni? Every Ashtangi knows this. We say Agni is fire. We do an Agni Sara practice, which is the fire essence practice. And throughout your entire yoga practice, you are creating two locks in order to hold the prana in. We talked a little bit about this on Sunday, which is in order for us to really efficiently move prana through the vayus, we've got to hold it in the body. What happens a lot of time is our prana is outside of our body, which the more you read and study, you understand that we lose our emotional health, our physical health, and our pranic health when our prana is outside of our body. So the yoga practitioner, the Ashtangi, tries to hold the prana in through a locking mechanism. The two locks we use are physical as well as pranic. The first one is what? Uddiyana Bandha. So the lower abdominal, so you can think of the region below the navel, 2 inches below, and just above the navel where our ribs, the lower ribs sit. Hollowing this through forward bends and also pulling it in throughout the entire practice. What's the second lock? Mula Bandha, so contracting the perineal muscles at the base of the spine. So by creating these two locks, we're going to hold the prana in and move the prana through all 72,000 of the nadis throughout the yoga practice. And specifically using this area here to create a fire, the Agni, that we also use in the practice. I recently had somebody call me, she was in class the other day, a new student, she goes, do you guys do hot yoga? Do you turn the heater on? And I said, no, really, Ashtanga is a heated practice, but each student is its own heater. So our idea is really that if you are mastering this practice, if you are efficient in your practice, you create an internal heat. And that internal heat sits somewhere between apana, which we understand now, to, where's this? prana vayu. Between these two regions, we create a flame, and that flame switches directions depending on which asanas we're doing and how we're doing the asanas, which creates this idea of cleansing and getting rid of the rubbish. So we understand something like, and I'm going to refer to this throughout your practice today, something like up dog. Incredibly powerful pose for my chest vayu, right prana vayu, and udana vayu. So I've been encouraging you guys to look forward and really open your chest wide, and you're breathing deeply through your yoga practice and getting some movement, this flame moving through here. As well, we do these inverted poses. For Ashtanga, you know, we always understand that inverted poses for us is like the grand finale. We've done all this stuff to lead up into, you know, the Queen of Asana, shoulder stand and plow and all these things like this. And again, part of the wisdom and understanding the science of yoga is not only is that physically good for our bodies, our internal organs to get upside down and to cleanse, but if you think of this flame and the direction of the flame, where is it headed in all your inverted poses? How is your direction moving? When you're in inverted poses, the flame moves downward towards apana vayu, which is incredibly cleansing for us, right? To keep that elimination, that digestion, all of that working for us. So again, I want all of you to understand sort of the science behind it. And I want to add some very simple technique today, because here's what happens. We've been talking about, we get into patterns of being. I have patterns in my life, my ways of doing things. I have patterns in my yoga practice. And I want to shift that this semester so there's more attention to the work that all of us are doing on our spines and how healthy we're becoming through the work of the spine, how Vanda Scarvelli said we're awakening the spine through our yoga practice. So it's a very simple technique, and it borderlines cheesy, so I apologize for that. But I'm always trying to think of ways to create a shift for you guys. So I want you guys to think of your pranic value of everything in your practice, right? Everything, as much as you think of, oh, I'm stretching, oh, my triangle pose is great. What is the pranic value of every vinyasa, every asana in your yoga practice? So I want you to think of my right hand being that indicator for you. I have 5 fingers on my right hand. What I want the pranic value to be for each of you in every vinyasa, every asana, is a 5. It should sound like this. That's a 5. Oftentimes when we start our yoga practice, Sun Salute A is like a nice 4, 4.5, maybe pushing a 5. Then all of a sudden we start like doing twisted triangle and it's a 3. You know, or we get to Marichyasana D and it's barely a 1, right? So what we want to do is be cognizant and mindful, and to master your yoga practice means you master your breathing. I can't say this enough to all of you. This is a breath practice. This is a pranic practice. Without any of that, I am simply your personal trainer and we're doing gymnastics. One of my most advanced teachers, I love her so much, she won't mind me putting this out to thousands of people, is Maria. And Maria is so beautiful in her capacity of what her body can do. She started doing these circus classes. And she was telling me these things that her teacher in her circus class was having her do, and putting her foot behind her head and having her do all this great stuff. And it's a great analogy for us today, because that's so different from what we're doing, because it doesn't have that pranic value, that breath practice. It's simply a body contortion, you know, practice. So what really makes it yoga for us is exactly what we're talking about today. What is the value of your breath and your consciousness in your practice? And the breath is part of, next week we're going to talk about the emotional spine again, what's going to take you to the depth of that side of the health of your spine as well. So today, I'll be reminding you throughout the practice of all the asanas and the pranic value and the vayus in each of the asanas. But also yourself, just keep doing that thing with my hand, like, is this a 5? Am I moving towards a 5? Is this a 1? And constantly be evaluating that and trying to increase your pranic value in each asana. So the quote for this week as we're studying strength is by Mahatma Gandhi. Strength does not come from physical capacity, it comes from indomitable will.